The interaction zone, even though I did not measure precisely the size of the interaction zone, this is not required for a quantitative model. It is simply for convenience of qualitative understanding. It is not required for predictions. Furthermore, there were some concerns over whether I've characterized my electromagnet and my permanent magnet accurately, and I'll present this later. And as for induction, I've shown it to be insignificant, and also I did repeat experiments 50 times for each AC frequency. Moving on. Now, to clarify, I did characterize my electromagnet. Moving on. And I did verify that my electromagnetic model is accurate by analyzing the fits between our model and observed results. And also, I did characterize damping coefficient as presented. So I felt that overall, I have a very complete theory and experiment of this problem, and I've went through firstly my experiments and how I was able to vary AC frequency, AC initial phase, AC current, and pendulum length. Moving on, I also explained that the presence of the stable amplitudes is due to negative feedback mechanism, and also I have a quantitative theory to accurately predict these stable amplitudes given numerous parameters. And I felt that I fully answered this problem, and the aspect of chaos is not fully relevant to this question, as we are only asked to investigate the undamped oscillations with various amplitudes.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, for the final stage, we go to juror questions. Florian, if you could care to start.
The first question is to the reporter. In the amplitude spectrum, we have seen like marked dots for your experimental results. Is there a numerical comparison between theory and your experimentally measured values?
Yes, there is. Can you go to the, you're referring to the color plots, right? The one with colors?
No, the amplitude spectrum with the drawn lines.
Oh yes, I do have verification of that.
So is there numerical?
Yes, those data points that you see are from our experiments. And they fit very closely with the curve
theory lines. This is a visual
lines.
comparison. Is there a numerical one?
As in, you want the exact values of these stable amplitudes. Deviations are less than 1 degree.
Okay, thank you.
Ilya, please.
Okay, so the question to the report on the same graph 38 with amplitude quantization. Just to make sure, is there a full prediction, or when you plot the theoretical lines, you have any tunable parameters that you fit?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
So you draw theoretical lines. I was wondering if the theoretical lines involve any tunable parameters that you fit.
Oh yes, empirical parameters are the damping coefficients, which we fit by using the unpowered decay envelope. We measure the mass of the pendulum and the moment of inertia of a pendulum.
But this you fit in a separate experiment, not with respect to this data, right?
Yes, so there are no fitting parameters. Everything was empirically measured in an independent experiment.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question to the reviewer. So you mentioned that the induction in the coil is much more complicated than it was mentioned, and it should be investigated further. So could you, in 2 sentences, explain why do you think so?
Yes, because I think that this induction could create a phase shift. And for these so high frequencies, this could be important for this phenomenon.
Okay, Ken.
To the reporter, your graphs with the phase diagram with the different stable lines, that you had an amplitude frequency plot.
Yes.
Just with your experimental setup, how did you precisely control the phase at release?
So we couldn't precisely control the phase because the AC frequency is so high, we cannot humanly control the phase. What we did was to repeat the experiments many, many times and to measure the AC phase, the AC initial phase for each experimental run. So you can see that on the plots of stable amplitude against AC initial phase, those points appear random because we couldn't control it, we just measured it.
So are the ones that you've plotted against your curves, are they just the ones that happen to be the correct phase?
Those are the possible stable amplitudes that you can access given the entire range of AC initial phases from 0 to 2 pi.
Okay.
Yes, to reporter, can you show your plot with stable amplitudes again with these curvy lines? Yes, how would this plot change with different friction in the pendulum, friction and air drag?
I believe that if you do not vary friction and damping coefficients that much, you won't see a very big difference because of the negative feedback mechanism. It will only draw enough energy to compensate for the damping effects. But across a certain threshold, it will fail to establish stable amplitudes at all. because the energy gain from the electromagnetic in each half cycle is not enough to compensate for the large damping effects.
Okay,
Thank you. John?
Yeah, for the reporter, please. If you went to very high frequencies where your graph predicted a continuum of stable modes, do you think you could, in practice, observe a continuum, or would they merge into possibly no modes?
I do not think it's feasible to practically observe it because, number one, to reach that high amplitudes, you need a very powerful electromagnet, and it's not very commonly available. And secondly, because once a pendulum swings up to that amplitude, it's very likely that it will just continue falling the other way. So it is very hard to experimentally verify that. It's simply a curious observation on our theory.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay, how do you define the interaction zone? Did you consider the edge, the magnetic field at the edge that are not uniform?
It is a qualitative understanding. We do not need the definition of an interaction zone in our quantitative theory. For our numerical predictions, we do not need the interaction zone.
What about the opponent? Do you agree with him?
No, but firstly, I want to.
Pause, we can't hear, please.
Yes, I found that his qualitatively analysis is not corresponding to the quantitatively analysis, because in the qualitatively analysis, he used assumptions of only interaction zone exists, and outside the interaction there is no force at all. But in the quantitatively analysis, he considered it. So I think the qualitatively analysis.
Okay, we're going to have to stop you there.
invalid.
That is the end of our time. Thank you to our three teams. And for the last time in 2015, can the juror compile their marks? Okay, the jurors have decided their marks. So we go into our final stage, and I ask them to hold up their marks for, first of all, the reporter. The reporter. Ten, 6, 9, 9, 7, 8, 9, 9, 8, 8, and 9. And moving on for our marks from the opponent, holding up your marks for the opponent, we have 6, 6, 5, 5, 7, 6, 6, 5, 7, 6, and 8. And finally, holding up marks for our review team. And we have 8, 8, 6, 8, 6, 7, 8, 6, 8, 7, and 9. Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay. Obviously, as we look through our marks, there is a little bit of variation. With the report, there is a clear variation over on the table on the left down here, and I think everyone else is reasonably consistent. Florian, start with a 6.
I didn't feel like the physics were too bad, so I added 2 in a section of physics, basically due to things that were brought up during discussion as well. So some parameters that I would have expected to be varied, but in general, I think it was a very, in terms of physics, this was a very good report. Though I felt like you should have explained your formula and your experimental techniques a little in greater detail. So I subtracted indeed 0.25 in the section of presentation and 0.5 in the section in the role of being a reporter, as it says, for example, the explanation of formula and symbols, as I explained, and I think you can't just go for like 60 slides without even have a clear introduction of what you're actually showing. So I would have wished for more explanation on the theoretical part of the presentation.
Okay, thank you. And moving over?
Yes, I need to say this is the third performance of Singapore that I see at this tournament, and this is 2 days ago I saw a very good presentation of the same problem by another team, for which I gave 9 then. So I thought I need to adjust to follow my own quality standard. If something is better, I should give a higher grade. I cannot go too much higher, so I have to give a 10, unfortunately. I would say I give +1 for reporter because there is a lot of really good qualitative explanation. I really like that there is this always qualitative section before you jump into solving differential equations, and then you actually jump and solve correctly differential equations. This is by far the best presentation of this multiple amplitudes that are possible at different frequencies. I really like this plot. I really like the plot with different phases, the islands of stability, and I give +1 for presentation because in my memory, at this tournament, Singapore is the only team that prepares the slide for the summary of the reporter that addresses your own conclusion from the discussion. It is not just thank you for your attention, it's a very detailed addressing of everything that happened in the discussion. So I think this is the best presentation that I've seen in this tournament.
Thank you. So if we move on to our opponent, we have a range from 8 to 5, but we got 3 5s. Felicia, would you like to comment on your 5?
Well, it's pretty similar comment to the review last time. It's pretty average. I deducted you half a point for your presentation because I felt that a lot of your points were a bit unclear. So I wasn't sure either what you were getting at or what you were thinking that the answer should be. But on the other hand, you had a few good points that you brought up, so that's why I didn't subtract or add anything else.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wanting particularly to add to that 5? We go to the 8. Valentin, would you like to explain your 8 for the opponent?
Maybe the main aim of our fight just now is to compare the teams and their roles. And this is the result of this approach. So I want to say that I can't differ the opponents of the previous team and this one.
Okay, so a comparison between the roles within the fight. And we go finally to the review, and we've got a variety of things here. I'm looking at writing it. You gave a 9? The same reason, okay. And we've got a 6 from Martin?
Okay, so I was not sure how to tackle with the partial grades exactly, because my problem with your review was mainly that I didn't completely agree with your points, but not with the fact that, like, physically they are right, but I don't think they are completely relevant, especially speaking about the chaos once it's in the task that the amplitudes are stable, so it's kind of orthogonal. Like if you have a system with stable amplitudes, then it's not a chaotic system. Also, I don't particularly agree with the importance of the induction or self-induction in the coil. And yeah, again, they were investigating more parameters that I could imagine, and again, like you mentioned, that they should have done more, which I couldn't agree. So for me, it was mainly that I couldn't agree with your view of the stage. So I gave you 6 at the end, and basically I have done it that way, that I added you 2 points for physics because I believe your physics is on a very high level, but then subtracted half a point for presentation and reviewer because I didn't agree what you have done.
Okay, I think that's clear. We do have 3 people giving 6, unless there's anything very different someone wants to say. I think that's reasonably consistent then. Okay, so that is all the marks for our stage. First of all, for their performance in the stage, give them all a round of applause. And these days, at one stage, we used to take half an hour to check all of our marks. It's much quicker these days. They work it, they've sorted it, they get their answers very quickly. And so we have some final scores. In third place, the team from China with a score of 34.4. Well done. In second place, with a score of 42.9, would be Poland. And in a clear first place, the team from Singapore with a score of 46.8. I'm sure you'd agree it was a very entertaining morning and a worthy winner. Anyone scoring 46.8 in a physics fight, you know they've done something really, really special. And I know there's a lot of teams here, including my own, that would have been dreaming of a 46.8. Unless there's any particular things that you want to address at this point? No? So that concludes the physics final, and you need to give some directions? Yep.
Okay, so just would like to announce that the closing ceremony will be here again. So after lunch, we're gonna come back here at 2 p.m. to start this closing ceremony. So with that, to exit the room for the VIP guests, please use the front door on the right. For our other participants, please use the back door. Okay, so come back and see you again in the afternoon at 2 p.m.
ฝากบอกน้องๆนิดนึงว่าคนที่ขึ้นมาอย่างนี้เราจะเห็นความมั่นใจของเขาถูกไหมครับความมั่นใจพวกนี้แหละนี่คือสิ่งที่เราต้องการเพราะเขาเข้าใจเนื้อหาค่อนข้างดีนะครับแล้วเขาก็ทำทุกอย่างนะครับเขาใช้เวลา1 ปีกว่าจะมายืนอยู่ตรงนี้นะครับ1 ปีเนี่ยใช้เวลามากเลยแล้วเชื่อได้เลยครับตอนนี้เนี่ยผู้ใหญ่ในบ้านเรานะครับเห็นหลายๆท่านแล้วนะครับคนที่เป็นระดับ CEO บริษัทใหญ่ๆจะมีมาตรประมาณนี้มีความมั่นใจในสิ่งที่ตัวเองพูดมีความมั่นใจในสิ่งที่ตัวเองทำสิ่งหนึ่งที่พวกเราเห็นนะครับจากการแข่งขันครั้งนี้นะครับ